Hi, everyone. You may have to put on your headset to be able to hear me clearly. Okay, so welcome to the Belgian Presidency event on innovation procurement, and my name is Mandy, procurement specialist of the First Movers Coalition. And the First Movers Coalition it's about leveraging the purchasing and procurement power of our now almost 100 private sector members to scale up clean energy technologies in hard-to-abate sectors. So I'm not going to dive too much into details of who is the First Movers Coalition, because I'm joined by my very lovely colleague here, the head of First Movers Coalition, who I will invite to come up stage and give a short speech very shortly. So first, I would like to give a quick introduction of our panelists who are very lovely to join us today. And Jean-Jacques is online. Okay. So the topic of today is how to facilitate the access of small, medium enterprises and startups to the supply chains of large companies. So I'm very excited to share that we have put together a very interesting panel for you. First, we have representative from the European Innovation Council, the head of department, Stefan Ouaki. And next, we also have representative from large companies, which I'm also very proud to say that they are members of the First Movers Coalition. We have Truth Sunset, the Chief Technology Officer of Norsk Hydro. We have Marc Delabelle, the head of fossil-free purchasing team from Volvo Group. We also have Adelio Bemero, I hope I'm saying this right, the head of global research and development from Hosum. So thank you for joining us today. And last but definitely not least, we have Jean-Jacques Bois, a very successful EIC beneficiary, a representative of SME that unfortunately he couldn't make it in person, but it really shows his dedication from joining us online. So it's great to have you online, Jean-Jacques. So without further ado, I would like to invite Rob, the head of First Movers Coalition, to give you a quick introduction of who is the First Movers Coalition and who are some of the first movers. The floor is yours, Rob.
Thank you, Mandy. First of all, deep sigh of relief, because 5 minutes ago this room was more or less empty. So thanks for still spending your time with us towards the end of what must have been a very impactful day. So my name is Rob van Riet. I'm the interim head of the First Movers Coalition. I just wanted to start out by thanking the Belgian presidency and the EIC for collaborating with us on this event. But I also want to thank Mandy, my lovely colleague, who has been behind the scenes putting this event together. I want to say maybe just 5 things. I want to keep it quite short and structured. And I won't use too many slides, don't worry. 5 things. The first is 3 figures that keep coming up in the First Movers Coalition mission. The figures are 30, 50, and 50. 30 is 30% of the emissions, of global emissions, are covered by the so-called hard-to-abate sectors. These are heavy-emitting sectors on long-haul transportation, like aviation, shipping, and trucking, and the material sectors that we're all familiar with: steel, cement and concrete, and aluminum. And as our colleague from SSAB mentioned earlier in an event, these are materials, and he was talking about steel, that are critical to our way of living. And so these are also critical to our development. 50% is if we don't do anything about decarbonizing these sectors, if these sectors are left unabated, the projection is that these 7 sectors will account for 50% of emissions by 2050. 50% is also the amount of reduction that is needed from breakthrough technologies for which there currently is no market. And that is what First Movers Coalition was set up to support. First Movers Coalition leverages the purchasing power of big companies to make a commitment to buy near zero emission products in these sectors, so that on supply side they can rely on a strong, credible demand signal that hopefully spurs innovation and research and development. So that's the second point I wanted to make. How is FMC trying to solve for this problem? By creating a guaranteed early market demand for those products. These are the sectors that FMC covers. The third thing I wanted to draw your attention to is, where are we now? 2 years on. We were launched in Glasgow at COP26 2 years and some change ago. Today we have almost 100 members, 98 companies. Many of the companies are in the room and of course on the panel. That together have made more than 120 commitments. The discrepancy between number of companies and number of commitment is explained by the fact that companies are invited, encouraged even, to make multiple commitments across multiple sectors. That together represents now the largest private sector demand signal for these deep decarbonization products and technologies. Near zero emission steel, near zero emission aluminum, SAF 85. Those deep decarbonization products across those sectors. 16 billion in aggregated demand by 2030. And that demand signal will continue to grow as FMC gets more members that join the initiative. But what's been very exciting to see is that members are not just making the commitment, they are making tangible actions to get to offtake. They're making deals with each other, they're finding emerging suppliers, including innovators and startups, to actually achieve that offtake, which is so critical for project developers to crowd in more traditional project finance. So that's the fourth thing I wanted to highlight, which is that for us, if I think about what do we focus on now in our third year, First Movers Coalition, we want to help our members move from commitment to action. And that's why an event like today is so important. And we're looking very much forward to collaborating with the EIC and others to make sure that our members are finding, are surfacing, and are connecting with some of these breakthrough suppliers of these technologies. Last thing I'll say is, no, hold on, there we go. Last thing I'll say, the fifth point, is a brief point on the members, the FMC members that are on the panel today. Because what is interesting from Holcim, Volvo, and Norsk Hydro is that each of these companies have already engaged with each other in deals and MOUs to meet their decarbonization commitments. Norsk Hydro and Volvo Group announced in Dubai a deal that would allow Norsk Hydro to supply Volvo with near zero aluminum, which helps Volvo meet its aluminum commitment. And Holcim and Volvo announced a deal just last year, largest order of zero-emission trucks to Holcim, which allows Holcim to meet its commitment under the trucking sector. And this, to me, is the most inspiring example of how First Movers Coalition is catalyzing action. These companies are finding each other in their value chain and helping each other meet their commitments. But these are big companies finding each other. Just as important is SMEs and startups gaining access to those procurement supply chains. And that is what today is all about. With that, I'll hand over the floor to Mandy again. Thank you.
Oh, I don't need a clicker. You just keep it. Thank you, Rob, for this comprehensive introduction. And I hope that now all of you have a brief overview of who is the First Movers Coalition and who are some of the first movers. So innovation procurement is inherent in the mission of the First Movers Coalition. And to tackle climate crisis, we need to accelerate the adoption of clean energy technologies. And among these, adopting clean energy technologies sometimes mean looking beyond your traditional supplier base and seek new solution providers. And in many cases, these new solution providers can be SMEs and startups. And there comes with different sets of challenges and barriers when establishing collaboration between large companies and SMEs. So today we'll welcome a panel discussion and to explore together why is it important to facilitate SMEs to access the supply chain of large corporations. What are some of the barriers, but also opportunities? And with the understanding of the barriers, what are some of the approaches and programs that your organizations can adopt to tackle these challenges? So perhaps we can first start with a round of quick introduction for the panelists. And if you don't mind, Stefan, would you mind starting first? Thank you.
Hello. So I hope this is working and you can hear me well. So my name is Stefan Wecke. I represent here the European Innovation Council, which is a program of 10 billion euros for the period 2021-2027. And that program aims at supporting as a one-stop shop disruptive innovations in the deep tech area in Europe, from the idea all the way to the scale-up process. We do that through a number of financial instruments that are helping those innovations to be matured in the lab, and also with the creation of a fund that is taking equity stakes directly into those startups when they reach the moment of commercialization. The idea here for us, why we are so much interested in innovative procurement, in particular in private innovative procurement, is the fact that, of course, we are aware of the challenges that were highlighted just before. I mean, SMEs are the future future economic growth of not only the European economy, but generally of the world. They can, of course, provide a key element in identifying how large companies can actually source sustainably what are the inputs that they actually need. And also, of course, they can identify and they can put, I would say, a kind of a reference when it comes to identifying what is the cost that these new technologies could be bought at on the market. And that, of course, this competitive interplay of large companies and the startups that we have is basically defining the type of new markets that we are trying to make emerge through the activities of the European Innovation Council. So from our point of view, when we have been helping and trying to connect with a lot of public buyers until now, it is also very important to try to join forces with private buyers, again, to the joint benefits of bringing our innovations, our startups, with what they have to offer to the attention of these large private buyers in order to try to achieve those results faster and quicker, in view in particular of the very ambitious goals that Europe gave itself when it comes to net zero emissions.
Thank you, Stefan. And for you, Trude, from a perspective of Norsk Hydro.
Yes, so Norsk Hydro is a Norwegian aluminium and renewable energy company headquartered in Oslo. And at Hydro, we have the whole aluminium value chain under one roof. So it's ranging from mining and refining of bauxite and alumina in Brazil to our smelters in Norway. And then we have a network of recyclers and extruders in 140 locations throughout 40 countries. And this means that we produce aluminium, but also procure aluminium externally in the market. And this, that is why Hydro joined the First Movers Coalition in 2023. And through this fully integrated value chain that we have, we think that Hydro is uniquely positioned to decarbonize aluminium production and to be a pioneer in the green transition, where aluminium is really key. And we do the decarbonization through decarbonizing our own value chain, but also to be a conscious procurer. We need to make sure that what we procure is really developing in the right direction and moving the global industry towards zero. And we have a very ambitious goal. Our goal is to reach zero by 2050. And we believe that SMEs are crucial to provide the innovative technologies that we're going to need. We think, as I said, aluminium is key in the green transition. So the need for developing emission-free technologies and solutions is absolutely urgent. We do see that SMEs tend to be more flexible, more innovative, and more adaptable quicker than maybe big companies are. And that's why we need those and need to cooperate with them to take us down to zero. So that is why we need to cooperate between big companies, but also SMEs and smaller companies. And we often talk about that partnership is the new leadership, and we truly believe that.
Thank you, Trude. So inspirational. Partnership is the new leadership. And what about for you, Mark?
We could not agree more. It's for sure something that our CEO is always saying, that partnership is the new leadership. So I represent the Volvo Group. For those of you who doesn't know, it's not the Volvo that does car. We are doing commercial vehicle, we are doing trucks, buses, construction equipment, marine engine, industrial engine, and also for a lot of solution to our customer. That means we are in the transport industry. And right now we are in the middle of a big transformation because, you know, we have a lot of dynamics, mega trends, urbanization, growing population on the planet, e-commerce, all that is asking for more transportation. but we have to do it, of course, with the boundaries, within the boundaries of the planet. That means we need to find more sustainable solutions, not only for our products, the emission from our products through electrification, are all alternatives I heard during the day, because we have fuel cell with hydrogen, or biofuels, all that is something that we have in our plans. But we have also to think about how we make the products. So it's all our supply chain. And that's where we need a lot of partners, because we need to decarbonize all the materials, and we use a lot of materials, aluminium, steel, polymers, almost everything, and even more. You know, when you decarbonize you have an electric vehicle, then you need batteries, so which has other type of material. So we have a very big challenge in front of us, and that's not something we can do on our own. So that's why we welcome such interaction, and where SMEs, startups, and all what innovators can bring us will be welcome to be part of our supply chain.
Thank you, Mark. And Adelio for Holcim.
Hi, so my name is Adelio Bermejos. I'm head of innovation for Holcim. So Holcim is making and delivering cement, concrete, and aggregate, mainly. So we're on our way to decarbonize because we have no choice. We're emitting CO2 and we need to fix the problem. And by 2030, we will be capturing already 5 million tons of CO2 and producing 8 million tons of carbon neutral cement. But the point here that I would like to highlight today is on the deliveries and the supply chain. So today, on a daily basis, we're organizing 10,000 deliveries by truck per day. That's a lot. We need to decarbonize that area, and we need to decarbonize it in a very, very cheap way, because the product that we're delivering, 1 kilogram of concrete, is costing 3 cents. So the value of the delivery, the mistake in the delivery, is just killing the profitability of the business. So we need to be extremely well organized. And the highlight today will be the example of this company that will be introduced in a couple of minutes by Jean-Jacques Bois, called Nanolike, that we discovered through EIC. We have invested in this company, and for us, it's a very, very good success. So this is something that I would like to highlight today.
Thank you, Adelio. And I think Adelio made such a good introduction of Jean-Jacques Bois. The floor is yours, Jean-Jacques.
Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having set up this video conference, because I couldn't make it with my travels problem this morning. But so in a few words, I'm Jean-Jacques Bois. I'm the CEO and founder of Nanolike. So we are obviously the SME of this panel. It means 20 people, 15 in France, 5 in Canada, focused on one topic, silo monitoring for logistics optimization in 2 markets, agriculture and cement industry. And actually, yes, we met Holcim by doing a pitch during an EIC corporate day organized by the EIC and Holcim, and we pitch here. We say, okay, hey, we have a solution for silo monitoring and agriculture. Why don't try it on cement silos? And there was people from Holcim taking this, saying like, oh, that could be an interesting technology for us, going in our goals. And then I think like 2 years ago, 2 years later, we are now Holcim part of our capital, and we are scaling the project of monitoring all the cement silos within Holcim Group. And we're operating in more than 12 countries at the moment, with Holcim Group. So I would say, to answer your question, Mandy, about, I will take it the other way. Is it important for SMEs to access supply chain of large groups? For us, it's really important, because if you want to scale a startup in B2B, you need to find large markets. And usually large markets are owned by large organizations. And going and penetrating this huge organization is very, very complex. So working with large private buyers for us is a very big opportunity. And on top of that, on top of bringing the business with a large company, it's also bring a big, big trust among any other customers. So for us, it has been really a great accelerator for Nanolike.
Thank you, Jean-Jacques Bois. I think it is clear that there are opportunities for both suppliers and large companies to work with each other, and for large companies and buyers to stay at the forefront of technology development, to continuously optimize your business operation, and as well as to offer better products and services for your customers, you have to, in some ways, work with SMEs and startups. And as what Jean-Jacques Bois was saying, for SMEs to quickly accelerate the scaling up of your business, it is important to work with large companies. However, when there are new opportunities, it is inevitable that there are also new barriers. So next we will hear from the panelists what are some of the barriers and challenges that they have experienced in their day-to-day work. So perhaps start with you again, Stéphane.
Yes, like Jean-Jacques said, I mean, small companies, SMEs, startups, they face, first of all, a kind of a lack of access to information, to know where are the private buyers that could potentially buy their products. So this is something that, of course, we are trying to address at the level of the EIC. He also mentioned that usually these large companies, they are expecting large contracts to deliver this, and there is a kind of an inertia in the suppliers that you have already identified, that you are comfortable working with, that can deliver these large contracts, so prevents this new entrance to enter. They also face, and this has nothing to do with the buyers, but they face a number of other problems, the financial constraints. I mean, getting loans to develop their manufacturing capabilities is not necessarily so easy. And often also, well, at least in our areas, we face often the fact that the product, the technology they are developing may not be entirely mature. It still needs to be perfected, it needs to be tested before it can actually be developed. But of course, in this context, the opportunities are the flip side of what I just said, in the sense that then it gives access to startup and SMEs if they manage to make the jump, like Jean-Jacques has explained, the opportunity to have access to these long-term contracts that give them a time horizon when they can recruit, they can develop their productive capacities, they can develop a relation of subcontracting that is often a lifeline for this type of SMEs. And then, of course, they can look at possibilities of market expansion, often beyond actually their own, I would say, market of choice when they have emerged. And I will let the corporate procurers explain what are the advantages from there. But I think it's quite obvious that this access to these innovations is a key dynamic factor for them to have access before anyone else, pretty much, to these new technologies.
Thank you, Stéphane. And for you, Trude?
Well, I think I agree to what you said. And in addition, I think, well, you mentioned it, scaling can be a challenge, a barrier for small companies when we are a big customer. Can you scale up quick enough? And then I think another thing is the reporting burden. So we have strict regulations on and demanding criteria for SMEs and smaller companies document the sourcing and the sourcing chain and the supplier code of conduct, for instance. So that can be actually a barrier. So we should look at how to simplify that. But again, this is something that we take very seriously. So there's a limit to how easy we can go on that. And then the financial stability, I think you mentioned that already. But on the opportunity side, as I said, SMEs tend to be more flexible, more adaptable, and more maybe creative than we are. And we often find that they have innovative solutions that we would be interested in. But it is a challenge if your technology is not mature enough. And also, even if you have a mature technology, sometimes it's not just to apply it in our facilities. We probably have to adjust and adapt, and we need to work together to pilot and to demonstrate that it can work for our technologies and our industry. So that is also, I think, a barrier that we can work together on.
Thank you, Trude. And it's interesting that you mentioned that the stringency of sourcing criteria could be one of the key barriers. So that gives a good segue to Mark as the head of fossil-free purchasing team. And as a procurement professional, what is your thoughts on this?
I agree with all the challenge that has been mentioned, meaning that, of course, when we are a big group, we have a lot of partners. In the case of Volvo Group, we have, I think, over 50,000 partners globally. So meaning that I will see a big challenge is the visibility. You know, to see that all those initiative, SME, startup, how can they reach us? Because if we go to the traditional way, there will be a whole process of validation, and that's where we will have a hard time to give them access to our process tools. I mean, there is a bunch of of requirements traditionally. So of course, that's the biggest challenge. But then the biggest opportunity is what I was saying before, is that we are such in a unique transformation time that we cannot use the past way of working. So we are much more into the ecosystem approach, meaning that we are conscious that it's not only our direct supplier that will have the solution to our problem. We need to even help our direct supplier to have access, give the message all the way through our supply chain. And that's where we spent a lot of time. We have more experts and new job in our company to help to connect the dots here and give access and visibility to small companies. Maybe not directly to supply to us, maybe through connection with our other suppliers. But I mean, all this ecosystem approach is for me a big opportunity.
Thank you, Mark. And it's an interesting point that you're saying that Volvo has 50,000 suppliers. How do you give visibility to SMEs and startups? So I think that also, again, is a good transition to Adelio. As the head of global research and development, I'm assuming you look at new idea and new solution providers all the time.
Yeah, so. and I will start by the barriers, and then I will end with a more positive note on the opportunities. On the barriers, the main hurdle for us is that we are considering these companies like another M&A when we're investing. And in fact, the process is extremely strong, extremely heavy, and our people are not considering that this is a startup. So the way we approach, the way we deal with these companies, and I would like to just to give an example that happened a week ago with Jean-Jacques, and we were in Mexico and we were dealing with the procurement of this technology for the Mexican team. And they were fighting on, hey, we will pay on 150 days, condition terms, and etc. So like if we were negotiating with another big company, but they cannot afford that. So this gap, this cultural gap is not still closed, and there is still some changes to be done in our own organization. Otherwise, they will never survive. That's one point. The second point is the bureaucracy and the reporting, which is obviously for us very traditional, but they cannot afford it. So we need to change the way we manage these companies, and this is not the same way that managing another partner or an M&A. That's on the barriers. On the opportunities, first of all, I think it's the technology itself. If we have selected these technologies because this is new, because they can implement it quicker than what we could do. And third, I consider startups as the cheapest innovation that you can find. If we want to do it ourselves, it will be 10 times more expensive. It will be 5 times longer because we don't have the mindset of agility. When I'm waking up in the morning, I don't think that, wow, I have to make a sale by the end of the day, otherwise I will not be paid. And this is what is happening in these SMEs. So this cultural gap is helping us a lot to change the mindset in our own company and to speed up the processes. And this is the cheapest innovation that we can find.
Thank you, Adelio, for sharing the changing mindset and also the cheapest innovation. I think that's one of the quotes. And Jean-Jacques Bois, so over to you. So I know Nanolike was founded in 2012, and now it's almost over 10 years. And congratulations on your recent partnership with Hosum. So I would like to ask, I mean, it must not have been easy from 2012 to right now. So what has been some of the challenges that you have faced in trying to work with large companies?
Once again, I believe you will say congratulations to being still alive 10 years after. But no. Actually, yeah, I would maybe kind of jump on the topic mentioned by Adelio, because for us, when we started to work with large buyers, the very first barriers was clearly very simple things, but purchase process, slow, complex, time assessment, temper. When you have a purchase manager, look at your bank rating. When you have a startup, it means like startup, more expenses than revenues. So all the red flag everywhere. You start to be complex. When you talk about payment terms, 150 days from the Mexican people, like it's also another cash management topic. But the main thing is to also find the right large buyer. We clearly see here that we have some company in the panel. They are used to work with startup, or they are already kind of a different mindset. In the past, we have worked 5 years ago with 2 big French companies that we not mention here. Clearly, it was like 6 months of project and finished by a fail because the organization was not structured. We were not talking to each other with the same language. And that's the first big process. We expect from the large company to understand us, but at the same time, we must do, as a startup and as an SME, the effort to understand as well the expectation and the organization. So we need to adapt the organization of the startup to be able to scale within a large group. And that's what we are experiencing with Holcim. We just hired one guy to manage, or like a key account manager, the topics with Holcim, because there is the startup, we don't manage big groups like we small customers. And that brings interesting opportunities, because if you have a good relation with your large group, like the same that we have with Holcim, you can go further. They cannot be only customers. They can be corporate investors. They can give you commitment to buy some visibility on orders or rollout plans, so you can invest more and progress. And at the same time, we discovered, for example, that by working within the Holcim group, we started to focus on one type of cement silos. And we discovered that there was a completely new use case, which is even more interesting for us, with much more silos, much more revenues to do. So it's kind of an aftermarket. And we are working on this project because we have the right people at Holcim at a good level, and we can discuss about product development. So now, this year, we are developing a new product in collaboration with Holcim, placing a patent, and this could not exist before, because without the access to the large group, we wouldn't have discovered this opportunity. So I think the barriers, they start to lower and lower as the time goes, because there is flexibility that is increasing from large groups. And from startup, we also need to say, okay, we are just not the small startup, and please adapt to us. We need also to become more professional, try to understand the process, and make one step closer to the large group.
Thank you, Jean-Jacques. So with an understanding of what are some of the challenges and also the new opportunities highlighted by the panelists, I would like to explore what are some of the programs and approaches that have adopted in your organization to help facilitate this partnership between SMEs and large companies. So perhaps, Stéphane, would you mind sharing a bit of what kind of support that EIC is offering for the beneficiary, for SMEs, and what kind of supports are you offering for procurers?
Yeah, so first I would say that about 2 trillion euros, 14% of European GDP is going into public procurement. And if we add private procurement, you can more than double this amount. So the opportunities there for innovative SMEs are considerable if they could actually tap it and accelerate their growth. But now looking at the EIC is aiming at becoming a center of excellence on innovation procurement. We want to be there to mainstream access to innovation procurement at the level of the procurers, whether public or private, but also facilitate for our companies their capacity to respond to this innovation procurement. And if I can summarize what we will do, what we are doing through our program is the 2 C's and the 1 S, so contacts, contracts, and skills. So contacts, we it was to a certain extent already covered, but I will summarize them. We are really trying to establish a community of buyers, public and private, through different programs, one of them being, for example, what we do with corporate buyers. And we do this also, of course, with the regular organizing of matchmaking events with public and private sector innovation procurers in order to help them source these type of innovations that correspond to what they're looking for, and develop this in many different sectors. We have done it, for example, in the area of green hydrogen, alternative fuels, carbon dioxide removal in this event today in the IC Summit. And of course, we're also doing that through teaming, through organizations like yourself, the First Movers Coalition, which is very important in order to synergize our interventions at global level, in order to make sure that what we do is helping one another at different level. Now, if we turn to contracts, of course, the IC is there to provide assistance to our companies when they face the possibilities of finding this type of business opportunities with private and public procurers. Often they don't know where to find these tenders. We are there, of course, to show them the way, to give them the necessary access to information, and then help them out in order to come online and put down offers that could potentially become indeed the type of long-term contracts that we are aiming for, but also providing supports to public sector buyers in order to carry out innovation procurement, which is not necessarily easy from the point of view of the public sector and the way they implement procurement in general. We are also financially trying to enhance proof of concept and pilot tests that help those small companies to basically be able to respond to offers that come to public and private buyers. And then if we look at skills, finally, we are also organizing innovation procurement academies to enhance the capacities, of course, of our beneficiaries to better access these procurement markets in Europe. We have an initiative that is called Spin for EIC. It's been launched not so long ago, actually, and there will be now a new online event that will take place in mid-April in order to provide the type of support that are there. And we, of course, are continuing our efforts through the various programs that we have in order to bring to the attention of our partners the possibilities that are there, in particular in accessing the type of skills that you need when you're on the public procurement side in order to be able to implement correctly this innovative procurement. So a range of activities. Again, we take this very, very seriously for our beneficiaries and for our partners, because we believe to a large extent providing just funding, which is what we do through the various financial instruments, is not enough to allow those technologies to eventually reach the market as fast as it is needed, in line again of the challenges we are facing, just to look at the climate challenge.
Thank you, Stefan. And it's exciting to hear that both procurers and SMEs can find support with the EIC. So what about in Norsk Hydro? What are some of the approaches that you have adopted?
Well, as I tried to describe, Norsk Hydro is a large company and a very broad value chain. So there's not just one approach. There are many approaches to how we work with SMEs. If you take the business we're doing with mining and refining in Brazil, we have some bauxite residue. We try to work with small companies to see how we can utilize that, making it from a waste to new business opportunities. So that's just one example of how we work. And then in the extrusion part of our business, we have grown mainly through acquisitions, and therefore we have many smaller suppliers, and we have a very high ambition on doing more of recycling of aluminium, because it's actually a very good material to recycle. You use only maybe 10% of the energy to recycle, and it can be recycled over and over and over again. So in that part of the value chain, we use a lot of local scrap companies, and we also work with the regional alloying elements to supply our cast houses. And then in addition to this, we do, of course, our own research and development and try to be innovative. And particularly in the low carbon solutions, we do cooperate with many research organizations and small startups to see if this can add value to our portfolio and to help us to decarbonize. And that I think we try everything that we can think of and more. When we talk to smaller companies, they tell us you can try this or that. And in general, we try to meet them, listen to them, and see if there's something there. And then, of course, it's a challenge. How quickly can you scale up? And we have to adapt it to our processes. But we we work on biofuels, hydrogen, electrification, fuel switch, and all of those that I think everybody else is working on. And so we will continue to do so. So we have a quite multi-approach, I would say, in our company.
Thank you, Trude. And for you, Mark, from the perspective of procurement, how is the procurement approach different if you source from companies?
Yeah, I think I can give two examples. The first one is the department I'm leading that is called Free Materials. So it's a full mission. It's roles that we have created in procurement to be able to create visibility on all the solutions that we need to achieve our objective. It is net zero by 2040. That's the mission with intermediate step. And here I have specialists per raw materials that are there to scout. So they are do scouting full time to try to see, okay, from cradle to gate, so from the mine to our gates, for instance, if it's metals, or from whatever feedstock you need to do plastic, for instance, and then what are the solutions, what are the innovation out there, and then we see how to connect. So that we have a clear team, and of course it's completely linked also with First Mover Coalition, because like for steel and aluminium, where we have then the complete ecosystem that is represented, and indirectly it gives visibility, demands, and then small companies, our startups then can see that and come and offer their solution, and then can be supported with financing and so on. So that's one thing. And the second, we have done our small EIC internally, because we have our own incubator and accelerator that we started first in Sweden, that we call Campex. We launched a few years ago. The idea was to offer space, office space, workshop space, access for startups to our vehicles, to try their software, try their hardware. If they had questions, to access our engineers, to help them to demonstrate first, and then to accelerate the implementation. And we also have part of financing where we can help them with a different solution. So we started that in Sweden, but then it was quite successful. So we multiplied that in France, in US, and in India to have a global, where we have all our global R&D center. And overall, we have more than 80 proof of values and proof of concept that have been studied or ongoing. So it's maybe small compared to EIC, but at least at our scales, we have our own program. So I think all that helps us to bring innovation.
Thank you, Mark. And it's good to hear that there's a small EIC happening within Volvo Group. Perhaps the small EIC and the big EIC can collaborate at some point and to grow even bigger. So for you at Deleo, I mean, it's clear that Hosum does work with a lot of startups and SMEs. And what are some of the best practices that you can share?
Yes, we have three types of initiatives. The first one is the EIC. So we are very much connected to the EIC. We're organizing some demo days. And that's the way we detected this nanolite company. So, and we're very close, and then repeating sessions in order to detect, or the EIC to detect for us the good. They do it well, and they do it for us. So that's for free. So that's good. The second one is we have our own accelerator, the Holcim accelerator, which is every 2 years dedicated to a special topic. So right now we're running the one on circular economy. This is a season 4, and we are partnering with big companies in order to make the noise needed in order to detect the right company. So this time, this is with Amazon, this is with Bloomberg, Acciona, Suez, and the European Business School, in order to involve the students, and the students are helping the startups to improve the business model, etc. So this is an ecosystem which is there to make these startups fly. We are not necessarily investing in them, but we could, but not necessarily. And then the objective is to make them fly, because from a strategic point of view, this is our interest to make them fly. And then we're providing them, as you mentioned, so either the labs, time from engineers, it can be our facilities, it can be just access to a concrete plant or a cement plant. No way for these startups to get access if we're not providing that for free. So this is the second initiative. And the third one, which is quite a change in our organization. So we have a startup committee, which is not a venture capital on purpose. This is not our own venture. This is something which is within the organization in order to speak about startups every day and not something left to the venture capital. So this startup committee is managed by 5 people. I'm part of it. And once we want to invest in a company, we submit that to the executive committee, and they have 48 hours to decide, yes or no. But just to show that it has to be agile, it has to be quick, and it works very, very well.
Thank you, Adelio. And I hope the FMC members are out there that you hear that EIC offer free services to help you find innovators. So thank you for sharing that, Adelio. And last but definitely not least, Jean-Jacques Bois. So as a successful EIC beneficiary, what led to your success and how the EIC has helped you achieve that?
Actually, I already talked a little bit about it. First step that was really important for us, that was clearly to have the opportunity to pitch in front of a big group. Just take Holcim, 60,000 and more or less people. Where do we start? So having the chance to pitch in front of the right people, that was the first key element for us. And then when we convinced the big group, when we convinced Holcim, there was 2 things that led us, I guess, to the success. The first thing is you have him in front of you. It's Adelio, because what is very important is to have a very, very strong sponsorship. Within large organization, if you don't have a good sponsor at the very high level, then it could be very complex. And here, to have the support of Adelio, we can have the top-down approach. We can quickly identify who are the person we need to talk to, and coming with the hierarchy, it goes very, very quick. And it's good to have the top-down approach, but we need also to have the bottom-up approach. I mean, like from our side, Nanolike, we need to convince the field people. Because having a decision coming from the top management without the acceptance of the people on the field, that does not match. So our job at Nanolike is to understand that the big company and our sponsor can help us to reach out to the right person, but we still have to do the job, to convince people, to prove our value, and to also add another very, very important element, the flexibility. Because we're a French company, we're used to work in Europe, and we have subsidiary in Canada. But then, for example, as Adelio mentioned earlier, when we started to work in LATAM, in Colombia, or in Mexico, we arrived with the same pricing business model, full OPEX system, full CAPEX system. I think for our first project, we paid 30 kilo euros to the Mexican people, and there was like, no. And then we ran into a complex situation, and we understood that we had to change our offer to customize the way of selling. For example, working more in a full OPEX system. And so from our side, we need also to if we want to success within a large group, such Holcim, which has many, many subsidiaries in all the countries in the world, we need to take in consideration that it's one group, but it's many, many subsidiaries and different companies that have their own processes, their own habits, usage, and so we also need to take that in consideration. But I think to me the key is EIC did a very great job in giving us the access to the large group, and then it's a combination of this top-down approach, top-down from the big group and bottom-up from Nanolike.
Thank you, Jean-Jacques Bois. I think that's a great conclusion of the panel discussion. We learned so much for partnership to leadership, Little EIC and Volvo Group, and also free EIC service for FMC members. So now we're going to open up opportunity for questions, if there's any from the audiences.
Well, I'd like to thank the panel. It's really extremely interesting discussion. I have two questions. First of all, mention partnership. And I think that it's very important because you have you have private sector here. You're not competitors. So instead of going one by one, having your own accelerator, why don't you form groups of complementary, non-competitive groups, and so you can this way you can join forces and have the money to get to see more technologies, and these technologies can be mature, ready to scale. But what we need here is breakthrough technologies. So we have to bring the cost down to 50%. The market, the annual market, global market, is 3 trillion. So it's a big market. So if you join forces like the three of you have some 10, like you have a biogas company, a steel company. They're not competitors, but you have the same problem. And the planet will not make it. Many people think it's 50% that the planet will make it. I believe that it's less than 50% chances. And the second is that for you is an opportunity to buy cheap technology because it could cost you much more from spin-off companies. Spin-off companies and startup companies who have been working in European projects. Like I am one of those. I retired 9 years ago and I'm still working on this. You have new technologies that you have to, but you have to group together and see many opportunities by not only one spin-off, but see at least as a group. So you have many groups of complementary and non-competitive groups. Thank you.
I see Adelio is ready.
Yes, I could answer this one. Definitely we could. And by the way, some technologies that we're developing together, we're already doing it. But for the startups, you're right, we could. But we do it as well. I would say we do it already with the accelerators. Because